You know, it's kind of interesting. This sort of topic, I feel it's really important, but at the same time, we're not really talking about it all too much. More so because I don't really think there's too much impending doom and gloom about this entire thing. Today we're going over to the Montreal Canadiens and we're talking about Cole Caufield. Not necessarily because we need to talk yet again about the line that he's going to be playing with, how good Slafkovsky and Suzuki are going to be with him, etc., but because if we go a little bit longer term into Caufield and his Canadiens timeline, there is a very important contract extension that is going to need to be given out to this guy sometime soon. Cole Caufield is making $880,000 per season against the Montreal Canadiens cap. The contract expires at the end of the 2022-2023 season, and the Montreal Canadiens for the past few weeks have had the opportunity and the ability to sign Caufield to a long-term extension should they actually want to explore that type of move. Obviously, at the time of recording this audio, that hasn't happened yet, but it is a move that we're probably going to see more talks going about as the year goes on. To open up this discussion, I wanted to go over onto Montreal Hockey Now because there is a piece published by Marco D'Amico from 3 days ago going over some other contracts handed out to RFA players around the NHL that may impact the Cole Caufield extension talks. This second paragraph of the article, by the way, the link will be in the description if you want to go ahead and read it, talks about how we had seen the St. Louis Blues give 25-year-old Jordan Kyrou an 8-year deal worth $8.125 per year. You had Robert Thomas also given a similar deal a few months ago. The Ottawa Senators sought to secure their future by signing both Tim Stützle to an 8.3 AAV deal and Josh Norris to a 7.9 AAV deal, with both of them being 8-year deals as well. The Ottawa Senators are looking to get them locked down to a term that may be expensive in year 1, but will be well worth the risk in years 3 through 8. The Canadiens already have themselves Suzuki, who had been signed to an 8-year contract worth $7.85 million a season earlier in their tenure, and Suzuki's importance to the club was further enforced when he was promptly named the 31st captain of the club on Monday. GM Kent Hughes has been adamant about alleviating the club of other long-term contracts in order to be able to sign their youngsters to new deals down the line, and the first player on that docket will likely be Cole Caufield. This is what the article says about Caufield as a player, although he may not have the resume of the aforementioned players above quite yet, be it the long-term point production of a guy like Jordan Kyrou or a Robert Thomas, or the draft rank of a guy like Tim Stützle, for example. Caufield's camp has to be looking at all the deals being given to RFAs across the NHL right now and paying attention. The Sens look to avoid repeating their contract negotiations with Brady Tkachuk when it came to Stützle, and they paid a high price to get the young center locked up now, with 1 more year left on his ELC, rather than wait until the summer when he could command more. That individual idea is probably the biggest reason I feel that we're even having this conversation in the first place, because if you sign Cole Caufield to a long-term extension starting in 2023-2024 today, what you have to base that contract off of is what Caufield has done so far in the NHL, which is 20 games in the postseason when they went to the finals where he had 12 points, and a season wherein he had 67 games and 43 points after a very bad Dominique Ducharme stint and a great St. Louis stint, and try to project what the future holds then. If Cole Caufield goes out there in 2022-2023 making $800,000 on the season, and he plays as well as we all think he might be able to under St. Louis for a full season, with Nick Suzuki going out there producing points, and with Juraj Slafkovsky also producing points like a madman. If Cole Caufield goes out there and has, let's say, best case scenario, a 40-goal year wherein he gets 75 points in 82 games, if he does that, all of a sudden the contract negotiations for Caufield in the summer of next year are a lot more skewed into his camp being able to say, hey, look, the guy had a 75-point year. He scored 35 goals in one season. Kent Hughes, you better show us the money here because our client is just going to get better. Right now, after a pretty good rookie season split between a bad Dominique Ducharme stint and a great St. Louis stint, there isn't that set-in-stone season yet. Cole Caufield has not gotten 35 goals yet. Cole Caufield hasn't been a 70-point player yet. He is, at the moment, a 43-point in 67-game guy. Now, I get it, it's a little bit better if you multiply the points out by 82, but Cole Caufield has not achieved that level of stardom just yet that can justify giving him an $8-ish million AAV contract. If you gave Caufield an extension today, I mean, I think the best the Caufield camp would be able to do and get out of Kent Hughes might be something in the $5-ish million range if they say, okay, if our guy sticks around in this territory of being a 50-point caliber winger, then that's pretty good. Pretty good money for a guy that produces, let's say, 25 to 30 goals on a year. But if Caufield has that 35-40 goal season in 22-23, then all of a sudden the contract negotiations in the 2023 offseason become a lot more skewed for Caufield and his own party. Now, I'm not going to go out there and say necessarily that that's a bad thing. Like, Nick Suzuki getting a 7-point whatever AAV contract, almost $8 million. Good for him for getting the bag. He deserves it. He's talented enough to get that. For Caufield, he definitely could be in that same situation too. It's just if you're building a cup contending team, you're building a team towards the future that wants to go and make playoff rounds consistently year after year and win championships, you have to try to capitalize on every dollar that you're able to save. And right now, for Cole Caufield, there is an opportunity to save some money if you sign him to a long-term extension today versus if you sign him to a long-term extension a year from now. I wouldn't be disappointed if Cole Caufield got a long-term extension in the $8 million range-ish, something in the territory of the Stutzlas and the Jordan Kyrous and the Robert Thomases, because if he proves that he is worthy of that type of contract, then I feel like he's going to be a pretty good player in Montreal Canadiens lore as the years go on. But just right now, there is a little bit of a different conversation about it because he has not proven that yet. The Montreal Canadiens would likely have to present the Caufield camp, represented by Pat Brisson, with a substantial offer to get the youngster to sign now, rather than bet on himself going into the season. It certainly worked out for Thomas Kyrou and Norris. His good friend in New Jersey, a certain Jack Hughes, made the Devils pay a pretty penny, $64 million over 8 years, to lock him down long-term before having passed the point-per-game threshold in his first 2 seasons. And yeah, I think I was kind of stretching reality a little bit. That's fair to say, right? By saying, okay, the Canadiens might go out there and offer Caufield something in the max territory of like, I don't know, $5 or $6 million by 8 years if they wanted to sign him today. But then again, you know, it takes a while for some players to produce a season wherein that type of money is acceptable. Caufield had an 82-game pace of 50 points in his rookie season, which is pretty good. It's just he has a lot more in the tank, especially if you split the season up into the Ducharme and the St. Louis stints back-to-back. It's a lot better for Caufield's progression in looking at where this guy can be. So, talk to the comments all your thoughts ultimately about Cole Caufield and how much do you think he is going to be able to get on his next contract. It's all circumstantial as to how he performs in 2022-2023. Knock on wood this doesn't happen, but if he goes out there and he gets injured in the first game of the season, he blows his, I don't know, what's a body part that takes like an entire season's worth of time to recover from? Knock on wood again, it doesn't happen, but if he goes out there and he only plays one game, he has like an assist in the one game, there's no real reason for the Canadiens to go out there and sign into a long-term deal that's worth $8 or $9 million because, again, he wouldn't have proven that he's capable of doing that over the span of a full year. If anything, the Canadiens might go bridge deal if that was the case, sign into a 3-year deal worth, I don't know, $3 million a season, or maybe even just meme it up and sign him to a 1-year deal worth $1.5 million just because, hey, we need to give you an opportunity to prove that you can be as good as you think you can be and as we think you can be as well. If Caufield has a monster season, let's say he produces 90 points, 45 goals, 45 assists, then okay, the 8-year extension wherein he gets something in the $8 or an $8.5 million AAV range, that's not out of the question. This is different from Tage Thompson, that in which we talked about in the previous video, because Tage Thompson had so many years of NHL lackluster play before having one breakout season which saw him get that contract of $7-point-something million a year. It's different here for Caufield because if Caufield has that great season next year, that would be like season 2 of his entire NHL tenure, which makes it seem a lot more believable that he's going to be able to consistently do that year after year. For Thompson, it took him so long to become as good as he is today. So there is a little bit of nuance with all these contract negotiations, but either way, talk to the comments all your thoughts about Cole Caufield and what he'll be able to do next season. How much do you think he's going to be able to make in 2023, 2024, and beyond? And what do you think the point production metric looks like for this player next year as well? I hope you enjoyed this video. Juraj, and bye.